See what happened. So we'll get started in just another minute or two. Let all the note takers in, the AI note takers, and then approve them. Okay, let me get to the spreadsheet. Okay. Uh, let me start the recording. And so, welcome to the showcase, the last session of the MindSifting class, Mastering Your Resourceful Brain. And I guess first of all, thank you all for participating in this class. Um, so I always learn a lot from the reflections and the interaction with you all, and to be able to work with accomplished educators who have a lot of experiences that I don't. Each time is I learn something new. So I've really enjoyed working with you all, and I'm really looking forward to the lessons. I had a chance to at least open all the lessons so far that I've seen, and they really are extraordinary. And you should know, you have access to the spreadsheet, which also means that you have access to all the lesson plans that other participants have done, over the years that we've been teaching the course. So, um, you know, feel free on your own if you want to just, spend a little time going through them. And my guess is that you'll find a number of them useful. In many cases, let me just share my screen a second so you can. And I know you can't see all the details of the screen, but in many of these cases, you'll see on the first line here, like here, that there's a YouTube video, which is basically the equivalent of the video today. So you can see many of the educators explaining their lesson plans, and that will help you use the lesson plans as well. So let me stop share, and I guess does anybody have anything that you want to say before we go on to onto you all sharing lessons? Um, so we're recording this, so you'll be able to go back and take a look at the video of people sharing lessons also. But getting started, I guess, who is eager to start us off?
I can start us off because mine is pretty small.
Okay. So Christy, do you want to? Let me see. I'm gonna. Or do you want to? What
Oh
happened to
wait,
you?
somebody raised their hand. Why don't
That
they go
was you.
first?
Oh no, who was
No,
who?
Christy raised her hand. I
It's
just
okay.
started
You can
talking.
go first and I'll go after you.
Okay, so Allison, was that you talking?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, okay. So let me Allison in. Okay, so do you want to share your screen or do you want me to share it?
Um, I can share my screen.
Okay, so wait a minute. Okay, so now you can share your screen.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Let me make sure I.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
I zoomed in a lot. I just made a really simple infographic. A tiny bit of background. I do interventions and other small group at my elementary school, so I don't have like a gen ed classroom. Um, And so I don't, and um, I mainly teach remedial like math and English courses for kindergarten through sixth graders. But I do have like a quiet, calming area of my classroom. So while I don't have time necessarily to do full on social emotional learning lessons, because our schedule is so back to back, I wanted to create something for my calming area. So I made this, I can zoom out a little bit too, so you can see. I made this little infographic where I have this as the first page so students can get used to seeing the symbols, and then I have these different descriptions on the second page that I'm going to put next to it. And the thing that I really grabbed onto this course was the five sages. I just have been doing a deeper dive into them, and I find them really fascinating. And I think it's something that kids of all ages can really make use out of and learn while they're young and kind of carry it with them. So I just did I started with empathize, and I kind of summarized and then added a little bit to what I've been reading about them in the course materials and just um, online. So I have the empathize, remembering that they deserve happiness and health, exploring instead of holding blame and judgment, coming from a curious standpoint, innovate, how many ways can you solve this problem, navigate, which is, that long-term kind of course navigation. And then the activating is, really pushing yourself to follow through with things. Um, and my school does a lot around SMART goals, so that's something that my kids are used to hearing about, so they know it. So my, I guess, lesson plan is explaining why I added this to our calm down area, going through these five things quickly, but letting them kind of explore it when they feel that they need to take a different approach to something. Mitch, you're muted.
Aha. Okay, thank you. As I'm looking at this, just having this as a poster up in a classroom and being able to say at different times, okay, so, you know, which of the sage powers do you want to use now? Or as you were doing that, I noticed that you were using the explore power. And and how did you feel using the explore? But it just gives you a touch base that you can use for practically anything you're doing once the kids are have been introduced to their sage powers, right?
Right. And it's something I wanted to just be able to briefly sprinkle into, whatever we're doing, just because I
Hmm.
don't have, 8 hours with the same kids every single day. I only have little 30-minute chunks with each grade. So this is something that, even my little kids can grasp onto.
And and I love the graphics. So do you have a graphic background or
No, I really like
uh
this website, Canva. So
okay, yeah, Canva's great.
yeah, educators can get a free account. Just a little
Mhm.
shout out right there. But yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing and let somebody else go.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other comments? I think that this would be a great addition to pretty much any classroom, but other thoughts from
I thought it was really beautiful. Very simple, very nice.
Thank
yeah,
you.
great job.
I actually took your idea because I loved your little brains. And when I show mine, I don't have your design skill set. But I kind of did something similar. So thanks.
Ah, wonderful. Okay. Well done. Thank you. All right. Who wants to try second to go
It's
second?
Christy. I'll go, but
Oh,
now I
Christy, that's
feel
right.
like I don't want to go because Allison's was so wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, but I'll bet you yours is wonderful as well. So I thought I
It's okay. I got it. It's working
okay,
now.
great. Okay.
All right. Okay, so I just did what I thought was a quick lesson plan on mind shifting and mastering your brain. So you could obviously read through. I put objectives in there. I always like cute graphics, so I included a lot of that. There's for decision making, and then that's what the objective of this is basically decision making.
Hmm.
And then session 2, you could do survival versus sage decision making and training the limbic system. And then it just goes through different objectives, activities, overviews, key points. I could put it in full screen so it would look better. There we go. So I just did a
Wow.
lot of different things, and I liked that brain there.
Hmm.
And then just some saying about being resourceful, and session 5, using the 5 powers of the resourceful mind and overcoming sabotage. There are some objectives and all of the strategies and stuff. And then the conclusion would be unleashing the resourceful brain. Oh, my dog's trying to get me. And then I just put happiness, success, and, cute little quotes and things in there. And then that would be basically this end. And if you wanted to do some sort of assessment, you could. So,
No, and it's one of the
oh,
things that's so cool is that you go over the concept, and well, you set objectives, you go over the concept, and then you have an activity for the kids to do it. So it's not just a sit and get,
it
they're
exactly.
participating.
Yeah, because I think hands-on and like experimental stuff is definitely inquiry-based learning. You got to do it to learn it, to love it.
Hmm. And as I think, I'm looking at the spreadsheet also, as this really could be adapted to any grade. I mean,
Yeah, it could.
you could show the graphics, and you could talk about them in a first grade or second grade language, but you could also show them, and you could talk about them middle school or high school language.
Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
it really pulls together a lot of a lot of things that they teach you in ed school, like the way you should conduct a class, and you pull together the graphics, and you hit so many topics in the lesson.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of words like when it came to it, but like obviously you didn't need it all, but I gave it all in case, you wanted to go through it and look at other stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's going to help whoever other people use it.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
And any comments from you all?
I think that you should make it the textbook for the next time you run the session.
Ah, something I could try that. I'm running the session again in May.
I think
So
that's a good idea.
I'm going to write a note to myself. I'm gonna figure out how to use it. Christy, you don't mind, do you?
Of
If I
course
do?
not at all. I don't
Okay,
mind.
good. Okay.
I'm not bragging about myself, I'm just saying this, but when I was in college getting my master's, I was in an astronomy course and I had to read a book and create a PowerPoint based on the book and everything. And
Hmm.
it was so good. The professor was like, "Hey, can I take this and use it in my class from here on?" So
Wow.
I was like, it's an
So
honor and I'm so glad you liked it. Thank you, Kathleen, for that suggestion.
yeah, thank you. Thank you both. Thanks for the suggestion,
Yeah.
and thank you for the slides.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good.
So
And third,
if I
I
could
can
probably
go,
present if
oh,
that's okay.
Kathleen,
and
sure.
and can I go after Kathleen?
And who's that? I didn't see
Jane.
Jane. Okay.
So, I'm gonna share my screen. There's
Okay.
lots on
Could
it,
I-
so sorry. But I don't know if anyone, sorry, I'm also doing work.
hmm.
So let me just move this out of the way. So I don't know if any of you know the dorky things about Google Slideshow, but if you change the ending to presentation and hit enter, it will, um, actually, if I spell presentation correctly, um, oh, just kidding.
Mm.
If you do it correctly, it will make it show in presentation mode.
Oh, cool.
Um,
Okay.
or if you change this last end to copy, you can force a copy. So if anyone clicks on the link, it will force the copy for them. So I actually made that in this, but if you,
Wow, so we're getting a Google Slides lesson also. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So it's loading. I don't know why it's taking so long, but basically let me try that again. I don't know why it takes so long, but so this is sort of a hyperdoc back in COVID when everyone was working from home and not really having a place to keep resources for their kids. They would create a thing called a hyperdoc, and
Mhm.
the next slide is what a hyperdoc was, where each box would have something clickable, and it would be different resources. But I figured I could make this a hyper poster where it could sit digitally in an online classroom. So like a Google Classroom or a teacher website or a Canvas course if you're running through Canvas. Because sometimes when you're teaching virtually, you don't have like a classroom with posters on the wall. So this would be a great resource to have in that. But depending on the grade level, you could do a mini lesson for each one of these, maybe like a 7-minute brain break. Once every tool is mastered, it could just sit in that Google Classroom or in your Canvas classroom, and the kids can use it whenever they need it. If you, as people who are looking at this right now, want to make a copy of it, you would just click on the little world and it would open up in a forced copy link. And then the hyper poster, you can click anywhere, but for if I'm not sitting here telling you that, you would just have them click on the bottom button. But each one of these is a little explanation of what mindfulness is. Each of these are different resources and tools and meditations to help with mindfulness. And then if none of those work, you can tap on the little monkey and it'll bring you to a YouTube video. It's actually a bunch, it's a whole curated list of different videos, and this little
Who's
monkey
ready
is
to hatch
doing,
some cool pets?
we'll just pause him
Click
for a second.
here to make your very own monster on Adapted Mind.
Okay,
Where
go away. But basically it's
monsters
curated a whole entire YouTube videos of this little monkey doing different yoga poses and shavasana and all that jazz to help kids calm down.
And are each one of the other squares clickable?
No, I was going to make them clickable to
No.
YouTube videos.
Mhm.
I didn't like all of the explanations that I found, and I wanted it to be like coherent.
Right.
I
Mhm.
didn't want to like make random things. I wanted
Yep.
it to be, like quick for the kids. But that's a good upgrade.
No, I think just even, having, each one in a different color, and again, whether it's an online class with a poster or even somebody printing it and putting it on on the wall, when it's time to, when you want to do something with the kids, I mean, you could even kind of make a game out of it, like, okay, so, which of these are we going to do today? And put a little bit of randomness into it. And kid voice and choice in show in having them do different exercises in order to reset. And then for an individual kid, I could see using that in the classroom, and a kid is acting up, and you could even say, well, let's why don't you take a look at the poster and see which one of those is going to interest you.
Which one of these tools is good?
Right, right. So they're not like telling them what to do. You're giving them
Choice.
yeah, you're giving them choice. Uh, So that I thought that was ingenious, really
Thanks.
good.
Thank you.
And and looking at these from me, it's like, I tried to, pull together material from different sources, and I'm speaking about it in a certain way, but to see it coming back in a level above what the way I presented it is really cool. So thank you. Any other comments for Kathleen? Okay, Jane.
Okay, let me just figure out if I can
Okay, and
share it.
I'm trying to find you, and you are a co-host, so you might be able to present. And if you can't,
You guys got it?
yep.
Okay. So I have been teaching kindergarten for years now. And one of the things about our youngest learners is that we can't just explain mindfulness and it without they learn best through engagement with it. And sometimes our students are at their most vulnerable state when they're that young, and an escalation can have a very big impact on their body and on their mind. And so some of the techniques that we use to teach mindfulness can start with like whole group lessons. And there's all kinds of resources on YouTube from yoga. These are some of my favorites. They're shorter, like 2-3 minute ones, and then there's longer 15-20 minute ones. Just getting kids' bodies calm so that they're in a better state to listen or to learn or to talk. If students are in a escalated state of mind or are having bigger feelings, there are all kinds of deep breathing techniques. This is something that I do whole group, but I also have things at my table, which I have pictures of, that help students be able to do this on their own so they can make choices to get out of their limbic state and into a sage mind. And then body awareness. These ones are really awesome for getting kids to just sit in their bodies and to quiet and to listen to those small things, like let's feel our fingers and then feel our arms and move through our body, and what is our chest doing. Sleepy Cat is awesome because it just gets kids to lay still, like they're sleeping children, like sleeping cats in a warm windowsill, and my students love it. If you can see a room with 24 kindergartners in complete silence for 5 minutes, it is glorious.
Hmm.
So each of the classrooms at my school have a calm down corner. I know one of the other presenters mentioned a calm down space or a quiet space. These are some of the things in different ones of our classrooms that we choose to use. The one over here is kind of gives examples of things that they can do if they're feeling in a dysregulated state. Over here, it's like mind tracing and just getting that focus onto one singular thing and out of the chaos. And then like busy bins that keep hands busy so mind can focus and calm. These are some of the things that I have in my classroom and in some other ones. One of my favorite is this egg chair, because students, I have a high number of small children in a very bright space isn't always cohesive for certain students to have think time or to motivate self-regulation. So this just provides kind of a dark, small space that can actually be really comforting to some students. And then timers, visuals, busy sticks, something to click, all these are all things that I've used many times just to get to a kid to that regulated state so that we can talk about where those big emotions have come from, and to ask all of those questions that can kind of lead them to make different choices in the future. And then when talking to a young child that is in a state of escalation, I have found that the best thing to do is to make yourself feel like an equal rather than a dominant presence, but still have control over the situation. So that means get low, get on an eye level, have palms out, hands open. Don't feed answers. So like not asking, I know that you're angry, but being like, you seem to have big emotions. How would you describe your feeling? And leaving it open for them to fill in the blanks and to talk themselves through what they might be feeling and going through. Always keep a voice calm, non-combative. And I, I always go over these with my whole class throughout the year, at least once a week. Like we talk about our feelings, our emotions, how we interact with others, how that might cause us to feel. If a student has a death in their family, we talk about it and we have a safe, quiet space where we sit in a circle and we pass around like a talking stick so that students, and they know that anything that we talk about within that space stays in the space.
Hmm.
And then I always praise students for their courage on being open and talking about those big feelings. But from everything that you've kind of talked about in this course, I feel like this is the best way for our littlest learners to engage with it.
I think, looking at this as really, well, as the title page, but really three different parts. The conversation techniques um, is amazing, and um, as you were talking about praise, I kept on going back to actually the way Finland teaches, which is kind of strengths-based instruction, which they're always linking what the kids do to some strength that the child was exhibiting when they were doing it, even if the child wasn't doing something right, if the child was doing something wrong, they come up with with the strength that the child was exhibiting as a way of then talking and getting the child into a good mindset or frame so that they could then start talking about what the child might be able to do better. And then
Yeah.
so what? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I lived in Europe for a while too, and it was like the same thing. You really want students to take ownership for
Hmm.
what they're feeling. So like I could have a student destroying my classroom, but they're not going to take ownership if I'm yelling at them, like, look at what you've done. This is not
Hmm.
how we behave. They'll take a lot more ownership of, I love that your body is now calm. Can you tell me what just happened? Or like, can we go clean
Hmm.
it up together? That is them taking ownership, not like placing ownership.
Oh, wonderful. And that's like the first part. And then on slide two, where you have those resources where, um, again, you can offer kids voice and choice, or the teacher has voice and choice in which one, which you're going to do at the moment. But there's what, 12 different resources to help kids reset. And then in 3 and 4, you're really showing different types of things that somebody could have in their classroom. And you could go on a GoFundMe or something, or teachers could pool their requests in together so that for a grade you might have a series of those, so that when a teacher felt it was necessary for a particular student, they would have access to it. So that was a great series of suggestions for different things that you could have in or around the classroom to help kids um, relax and get sage brain.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, great work. Other comments?
As a former kindergarten teacher, I loved all that you shared. Nice job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and as a great uncle and to a lot of 3 to 5 year olds, um, and grandfather to a 4 year old, I can't wait to share these with my nieces and nephews and my daughter for their kids. I think they're great.
And
Yeah,
Mitch,
Yep.
it.
I'll
Pardon?
volunteer to go next.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah,
And
please.
do you mind screen sharing my lesson?
No, I can.
It's
No,
near the bottom.
yep, I see it, and let me pull it up, and then I think what I'm going to do is make it larger too, so people can see it. Oops, that's the wrong. Um, okay, so that's probably easier to see, right?
Yes. So I did just a generic lesson plan, and I actually implemented it with my fourth grade students.
Hmm.
I did put it for second to fourth grade, but it could even be pushed to fifth grade and even scaled down to the younger grades as well. And I incorporated a lesson around the book titled Have You Filled a Bucket Today? A Guide to Daily Happiness for Kids by Carol McLeod. And in the story, it talks about bucket fillers and bucket dippers. And so if you haven't seen the story, it is really quite great, and the class really enjoyed it. So after the story, students should be able to identify what are actions and words used by filling people's buckets and the opposite of being a bucket dipper. So a bucket filler is showing kindness and empathy towards students, peers, family. A bucket dipper, what was really neat in the story is that the students learned that if they were to dip into somebody else's bucket, it doesn't fill their own bucket. And so it's some thinking outside of themselves. The lesson that I put together is letting them know that everybody carries around an invisible bucket, even the teacher. And then I read the story and we had some discussion questions, and the kids were great with what they shared, and they could really they could go in depth as to, oh yeah, we've experienced this. I got a movement activity in there. I gave them some examples, and they would stand up or sit down.
And about how many pages is the book?
Oh, the book, not that long. It's like a picture book.
Okay.
Yep, a picture book. And so it can be read, in under 10 minutes to a class.
Okay.
Yep. So then just to get them the movement part of it, I would say, okay, scoot your chair out a little bit. If this is something a bucket dipper would do, sit down. If it's something a bucket filler would do, stand up. And so they got pumped with getting to do a little bit of movement. The best part about the lesson was the activity that I put with it. I gave credit to, it's Kelly Mallory, and I have a link to her resources, but I used her template of a bucket.
And I'm going to link to it. I'm going to click on the link here.
Yep. And so I photocopied on the colored papers. That's all free. Buckets, and each kid got to pick out the color that they wanted, and I wrote their name on the bucket. And then, much like when you draw names for Christmas, you don't know who you're getting. I went around and the kids would draw a name, and then they would have to write a bucket filling message to each classmate. The best part of it was stretching. Some of the kids struggled with complimenting. And so I also put up on the board a few writing prompts to get them thinking, like, you're really clever at, or I think you're awesome because you made me feel special when, or I think your talent is. And so that kind of gave them a starting point, because sometimes at the 4th grade level, they get a little bit stuck when they're expressing themselves in the written form. And so I told them everything was going to be private, that their messages weren't going to be read out loud or publicly put up on a board. But I did take a photo. I kept them and I took a photo of it, and then I passed them out today. But I had each kid come back to the table, and I just held their note to them. And so they were facing the class, but they just read it to themselves, and their reactions were glorious.
I
And
would
the
imagine.
kids that wrote them the message, they would get these little grins, and then they would walk back and they'd make eye contact and tell, like, thank you for that message. I mean, it was incredible, because they realize other people are recognizing their strengths. Some of the
Did you do that for the first time this past
on
week?
Friday. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so then I did a bucket filler Friday and posted them on the board. So next time I might do random things, and kids can go take a bucket off the board and then write their message. But the goal would be that everybody got a message, and I participated too. And so somebody got my bucket and I got somebody else's bucket, and we would make sure that, like, this Friday we didn't get the same person. An extension that I thought that we could do to, like, kind of boost that is because do a kindness chain in the classroom where I have like strips of paper where when somebody does something kind to a person, they could write out, you know, when I fell down, my friend helped me up. And then we could link the chain and have a goal to get around the classroom, just to promote the positivity and how it doesn't take much energy to be kind, but it really can help boost someone's mindset around that. I touched on a bit. Anyhow, that was my lesson. It is a cute story though.
And having the kids compliment each other and then receive the compliments, or just, read the compliments, and you see that their bodily reactions
Yes.
is incredibly powerful. They'll be talking about this. I suspect that some of them may ask for this activity to be done every week.
Yeah, I have a second story that's along the same lines,
Mhm.
is how to fill a bucket. And it's just sitting up on the ledge, the chalkboard ledge in my classroom. And they're already begging me, when do we get to listen to this story? And so it has definitely sparked an interest. So that was it.
That's great. I think, it's funny because I part of me says a middle school student would not get into it, but I don't know. Somebody's a middle school teacher. Would you think? How would a middle school kid react to something? I mean, maybe not this particular story, but this activity. Any ideas? Would you think it might work?
I think you could adapt it to middle school, and obviously choosing maybe a different book if you wanted to kick it off book wise. But
Mhm.
it's surprising. I think some of these, when I was looking through the lessons, some that were designed for younger kids, I think we would be surprised how much middle schoolers would do well with some of the activities that are just listed as elementary. But they're still very young at heart, the sixth graders especially,
Hmm.
and so I see how this would work. And I just want to say this is excellent, Renee. And I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but I like also the idea of using this to help the individual students if they put their own piece of paper in their bucket, because that gets them trained to start seeing their own positive um, things that they do. Maybe you mentioned that you had them do that, but I love that because that's obviously a struggle for a lot of young kids to even address that they have good things themselves. They don't even want to admit it. So anyway, thanks for all that. That's just an amazing lesson.
Thank you.
Yeah, love it. Okay. Um, let me just. So who wants to go next? It's fun, right?
I'll go next. This is Sojang.
Okay. And did I make you me?
Let's-
Let me make you a co-host if you want.
Okay. All right. I think I got it. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, okay. All right. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I don't have a classroom. I'm the dean of students at an elementary school. And I do go into classrooms for some mini lessons from time to time, talking about personal mission statement. And we used to do 7 habits of highly effective teenagers.
Hmm.
So I do little mini lessons, but I thought I could do a mini lesson on rewriting scripts and stories, because this concept has made I really liked it during this class. So I thought I would make a lesson for our fourth and fifth graders. So when I go into classroom, I like to do a quick check and scan just to see how the kids are doing. So what typically what the kids do is that, I ask them, what's your weather today? And based on their mood, they have a quick answer. This is a quick scan for me to see how the kids are doing. If it's sunny, if they say it's sunny, they're happy, there's no problem. But if somebody says they're cloudy, they're feeling a little down. rainy, sad, and stormy, worried, and fearful. So I get a scan of how the kids are doing beginning of the lesson. And we do, even fifth graders like to do this sometimes. We do just a physical activity to get started. Popsicle. Some of you might have seen this done with spaghetti, the dry spaghetti that gets cooked and you melt. So popsicle, I ask the kids to tighten up all their muscles as hard as they can, and then they melt each part slowly, starting by softening their feet, ankle, shin, and going down all body scan, and they melt. And we laugh, and then we get started in our lesson. And I wanted to explain story in a kid-friendly language, but this is what I came up with. Story is how we make sense of things and organize our thoughts. In other words, story is our worldview, how I view myself, and how it makes sense of my world. So story, in short, when I explain to kids, I would say story are the beliefs, experience, our truths, our values, things that make who we are. And these stories automatically influence our thinking, especially when we judge a situation, when we judge ourselves and others. So with that, stories are lent through how we view the world, view others and ourselves. And script is actions for routine activities like habits, and script occurs because of our story, because script is based on our story. And it's an automatic, it's not something that you even have to think about. It's based on our beliefs. We just go directly to it. And here's a little diagram of what the story situation can play out. We have a situation, our story, our perspective. If it's I can't do it, then our script says, we can't do it. So there will be no action. But we can change and we can control our story. So I gave a little bit of example here. So for example, if we have a hard math problem and facing a hard math problem, and my thing is that my experience has taught me that I'm not good at math. My story is that I'm not good at math. So my script's going to be, I can't do it. Therefore, I'm going to give up. But however, we can control our story. Even though our story says, I'm not good at math, I'm going to pause and then go, wait a minute, I'm going to pause and I'm going to think about some alternatives. So what's the worst thing that can happen if I try to solve this math problem? Or how can I make this fun? Or even try, perhaps I can solve this problem. And then go down to maybe I will try the first step in solving this problem. Hey, I solved this first part, so I can do hard things. And maybe our thinking can shift to, I will try to solve this math problem now. So we can control our story by just pausing. I use the word pause to represent how to stop a script. Okay. And I think, Mitch, I copied all your all your questions here, but I think kids would have fun with what will make this more fun. My students are very familiar with the pause button because we tell them to stop and think. So using pause button to just symbolize how to stop a script. I thought that would go well together. Okay, and then I'll end the lesson with just the next steps. Introducing the idea, perhaps I can. I know we always talk about growth mindset in the classroom, so that could be another thing we could put in there, and using self-talk. The lines that we heard in this class, that's exactly how I'm supposed to feel when I try something new. And I only have to take the next step, then I can rethink about it. So try to make a lesson plan with the things that I learned in this class and get it to the level of fourth and fifth graders.
And if you don't mind, I think what I'm going to do is
Mhm.
I'm going to take your slide where you have that diagram, the walkthrough, And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use that in other classes because that is such a cool way of visualizing how this can apply to kids.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I think that was a genius.
Thank you.
I mean, I love the lesson in total, and
Mm-hmm.
and when I look at these, it's like I have to, I have to, I have to use that because I think it really makes it clear. Like this is, you know, here's kids
Mm-hmm.
being able to understand, how they can change their mind
Yep.
or control their mind. Wonderful.
Thank you.
And I like the way you put the mindfulness exercise, which, well, first of all, taking the room, the temperature of the room, and
Mm-hmm.
then having the kids go through, um, freezing their muscles and then slowly releasing different parts of the body is one by one, is a way of getting them to really make a transition from whatever it is that they were doing to be able to concentrate on something new. But so many good elements here.
Thank you. Okay. I'll stop sharing now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other comments?
Yeah, I really, oh, sorry, excuse
Yeah,
me.
go ahead.
I really liked it. It kind of spoke to me and what my lesson's about. So after Kim wants to go, I'd like to go just because it's a good piggyback. But I think it could be adapted to younger kids as well.
Thank you.
Am I okay to go next? But I did have a comment on the last lesson. So, and I believe I put it in my lesson plans. We use a mood meter to gauge how the kids are feeling throughout the day, and the kids can interact with it, change their picture. Um, but it's color coordinated, and I really liked the weather visuals that were given in the last one, just because instead of associating a feeling with a color, or trying to explain to a kid that, red, just because red's your favorite color, you know, they tend to target like their favorite colors. But not only that, but like just not always associating red with anger or being upset. So I might steal some of those visuals
Oh, yeah,
just
sure.
for
Yeah.
for the weather, because I think the kids might take to that a little bit better.
Yes. And I find it to be a quick way to just get the read on the room because they just tell you what their weather is. And we have a saying in my school, we carry our weather. So no matter what, we have our kids, putting their hands above their heads and we go, we carry our own weather.
I
So
like that.
yeah. Mhm.
Um, Mitch, am I okay to go next, or Mitch, you're muted.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Go ahead.
Do you
Uh,
mind sharing my lesson plan?
sure.
And
Now I have to find it.
mine is definitely not as
I see it.
elaborate as everybody's. So, but I will explain what it's all about.
Okay. Let me share my screen and there.
Oh, thank you. So I currently teach preschool special ed, and I was trying to take things that we use in our classroom and things that my kids really like to do, or to see, and animals, with all my kiddos that have ASD or are ASD suspected. They really take to animals. So when in past and as a school-wide thing, we use our belly breaths, and we've shared that with parents as well. Like we smell the flowers, blow out the candles, and we use that as a school-wide thing in the hallways and everything. But this one, I have a lot of kiddos that have a hard time expressing their emotions. And sometimes we get to those high emotions in the classroom, and teaching them different ways is something that like we always strive for in our classroom. Especially when those kiddos that don't have that voice to say like, I'm upset, or I don't like that, or it's my turn. Um, so just to make those positive choices and interactions with their peers, because a lot of my kiddos have those social goals. and interacting differently with their kids, or with our kids in the classroom. So we have this program that we adopted last year, but it's kind of like we use two different SEL programs, so we're constantly going back and forth. But this Tucker the Turtle program that we have, our kids seem to really like, and I shared the story about Tucker and how Tucker has some strong feelings and doesn't know how to relate to his friends just yet, that, he's frustrated or upset. But Tucker comes up with this idea on um, how to take that minute, because a lot of times with our belly breaths, they need that teacher with them, to breathe in and talk them through it. And one of the steps was recognizing your feelings. Tucker tells the kids, recognize that you're upset or frustrated with something. Stop about it. Stop, stop and think about it. Then it gives the demonstration with the actual Tucker, the puppet, to go into your shell for a second, take your 3 deep breaths, and then once you're ready to come out of your shell, you can problem solve that way. Um, or maybe even go get a teacher and everything like that. So I included, we use a lot of visuals in our classroom. So just kind of giving those extra tools, creating those posters with the kids, like how could we problem solve? And then, using our like visuals with stop, my turn. A lot of our kids have AAC devices. So creating folders specifically for, that Tucker activity would be something that we would do in our classroom. There's our mood meter check-in, invite our students to move the mood meter, which I'm going to change next year, like I already said. But, expressing, like, once they come out of their shell, they can express that I was frustrated and maybe move their picture. Especially those kiddos that don't have that verbal skill yet to say, why exactly they're mad or frustrated with somebody. But giving them that extra calming strategy that they can use. And then one of our big things at our school is, or in my classroom, is I always strive to share with parents like what we're doing and how to do certain things with them at home. And I would share this story with them so that they have that knowledge and skill to practice doing it at home too. Because the more they do it, the more they're gonna, use it. So.
And that's a very straightforward way to, to get kids to understand how to be mindful of, of what they're feeling, how to stop, and then how to tap into their resourcefulness in terms that they can understand using a story, because we all learn really well from stories, and then also linking in the parents so the parents can reinforce it. It's really complete.
I really like that. I love how it connected to the parents too. I'm gonna have to use it.
Awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you. Good. Yeah. Anybody who wants to go next?
I
Okay,
can go
Megan.
next. Yes.
Okay.
If you don't mind giving me co-host ability.
Well, actually, you know something? I was wondering if your child could do it rather than you.
Yeah, I do have to turn my screen off or it's not going to work.
Okay.
My internet, I don't know what the issue is. So, let me share my screen. Oh, why isn't it's not working yet? Let's see. Okay, it should work.
And if it doesn't work, I can always get it on my screen. And
Yeah,
then
for some reason it's not letting me. Hold on. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing, it would just be easier than wasting.
sure. And then
everything's time.
you just tell me when to advance.
Perfect. Yeah, no,
Okay, so
I am on my iPad. I can't get my camera to work on my computer, so I
okay.
don't know. Yeah. Um, you
And
don't
then
need to do a slideshow because it will
okay.
take forever. But yeah, so I did an activity this year. I'm finding it very challenging in my second grade classroom. I have 23 students, and 5 of them are classified with learning disabilities and or some sort of disability. I have great support systems, but I'm finding this year to be exceptionally challenging with students who are unwilling to work for me, who have already told, like, basically given up before they've even tried. I think I've mentioned it before. So I have 2 little guys who are very challenging. So I kind of took this perhaps I can and ran with it. So the little video that you see down there, you don't need to play it. I just kind of walk through the lesson for you. So that way you can, if you forget of what I did, I didn't record myself because I have students who can't be recorded, have not parent permission. So, but I just walk through the whole lesson for you. So the next slide, so I had them write down 5 things that they've done that they're proud of. And I didn't limit it just to the classroom. Like I scored a goal or, anything that they were proud of. I had them write it down on paper because they're second graders. And the 2 students that I have in mind with this lesson were actually very willing to do this activity, which was quite funny. So next slide, please. So for the next thing, I just had them pick one of those things on your list, and my kids sit in partners. So I was like, how did you get there? Like, how did you score the goal? Like, did you practice? I gave them a lot of examples, which I explain more in the video. And I just turned and talked. I did let kids share out afterwards. Sometimes I just will say, oh, I heard people say, just to make it go faster if we're running out of time. Next, please. And then this is a YouTube video I found of a little boy explaining the cookie jar method, which was really cute. You can watch it, like I said, later. And so then I kind of talk about the cookie jar method, how past experiences of being successful might help us approach these new experiences, like a hard math problem or this book that might have a lot of words on it, but you can do it. So next slide, please. And so the next thing I did is I handed out a cookie jar for them to write their name on the top. And then these little cookies, I did make a little bigger, and I did link the artifacts to the lesson on the spreadsheet. So you have these. And then I had them look at their list and write down those things on the cookie, and then basically cut the cookie out and put it on the jar. And we have the jars displayed right now in the classroom. I kind of made a pretend shelf, and so it looks like we have cookies in our classroom. The kids love it. So next, please. So then I said, like, you've listed all these great things. There's things that you've done. Look at how all these great cookies we have. Now I want you to think of a time where something was difficult for you, and, write it down on a piece of paper. So, they all did that. So next one, please. And so we kind of talked, like they talked with their partner, like, how could all those things in your cookie jar that we all see, how could they help you overcome this challenge? So, that math problem was hard, but, you scored a goal. And what did you do to score that goal? Oh, you went to practice every day. So, do you think maybe this challenging math problem, do you think someday it's going to be easy if we keep practicing? So they really, really connected with that. And were really able to think, oh, I could do that. And I have done hard things. So maybe I could do this hard problem or read this book that's a little bit more challenging. Yep, next one, please. So I talked a lot about this. This I really connected with. Perhaps I can. I actually have these 3 simple words I say to them on their desks right now. I'm like, look at those 3 words on your desk. And it's like a total shift for them. Not always, but for the most part, I'm actually able to get them to like see, or I'll make them go over and read their cookie jar again and be like, remember how you got there. So that's been really helpful for those little guys and everybody in general. I mean, everybody could use a little help every once in a while. So yep, next one. Yep. So I'm a huge literacy person. I was a literacy coach at my school, and COVID happened and they asked me to go back in the classroom, and I never want to leave. So I have a lot of literacy background. So I love books. So I just linked a ton of books that you could use where it's that mentality of like, overcoming, being persevering through
And these
something.
are read alouds?
Yes, so they're all YouTube videos, and you could even, I mean, I own all those books, but I just found them on YouTube because it's easier and it's not always accessible to people. But just like, how do you overcome things like, oh, a lot of kids love reading books and just talking about life lessons. So I just linked a ton, just, however your kids might connect to something. We've pretty much read all these books so far this year and just talked about like, like they were going to give up, but what did they do to overcome it? So the kids connect to books, at least in the primary level and probably the intermediate. So then the next slide, please.
Well, and really, the human brain is designed to learn through play, but and
Right.
also designed to learn through stories.
Correct.
So
Yep.
it's
Yeah. I just linked a ton. And then the other thing is I'm a huge advocate for relationships, positive relationships, knowing your students, even in knowing their families and like what they're going through. So, if something great happens, like, a long time ago, I went through some sort of PD and it was like telling a kid they're smart, like, is great. But, I always say to them, like, I believe in you. I believe in you. You can do this. I believe in you, or you can do hard things, So I do think they're smart, but I want them to think that too. And I want them to have that power. So like, you can put whatever you want there. That's just what I say to them. Oh, I believe in you. I'm going to walk away and come back. And I believe you can do this because you can do hard things. So I just put what I say to them on the last page. And yeah, that was my lesson. And like I said, if you go to the first slide, there's a video of me talking through this again, just in case later you want to go back and be like, oh, what did she do for that? So I just linked it. It's nothing professional. It's pretty harsh, but I'm not a video person, but I tried.
wow. So listening to you, and I should have brought this up also for pretty much all the lessons so far. But have you ever thought of speaking
I'll call you
at
tomorrow.
Still on the streets?
No, we didn't even get any up.
So, Megan, have you ever thought of speaking at conferences?
It's so funny you say that. Yes, I've spoken at a couple, but since I've got young children now, it's just so hard. And yeah,
Well, just get rid of them.
yeah, I wish. No, I love them. No, my pre-kid years, I would go and I did actually a lot of preschool stuff, but and with the literacy coaching, I did a ton of it. But with COVID, I went back in the classroom, and I just don't want to go back. They keep begging me, and I'm like, listen, I love it. I just love my little niche of kids. So, but thank you for that compliment.
No, and I especially, as you were doing this, it's like, this is so well designed for other teachers to be able to use. But then I was thinking about the other lessons, every one of these lessons. And it was like, all of you should be presenting these to teachers, because what you've pulled together are things that every teacher every educator could use. This is wonderful. And great work. Thank you. Okay.
I can go next, Mitch.
Okay, great. Held it. And are you I don't think the two are
If you
co-hosts yet.
could just share it, that would be
Oh, okay.
perfect.
Then let me find it. Oh, there you are. Okay. Okay, can you present this in Spanish then? I'm just
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, you said we should present these to other teachers, and you've given us a forum to do that. So congratulations, or thank you for that. Okay, so my lesson here says overcoming stress when reading a Spanish text. The first thing that I thought of when we did the surveys at the start and the end of the class is that the biggest challenge maybe my students have is going from, I teach grade 8 Spanish. So it's this, for me, for my district, it's the second year the kids are doing Spanish. And one of their biggest challenges is going from just learning some, basic vocab and simple sentences to actually trying to read some kind of a text. So we do like magazines and things like that. And a lot of kids kind of have an attitude of, oh, I can't read, this, whatever the text may be. It's too hard. It's too many words. Kind of like kids might respond to trying to learn to read, in a lower level, elementary school. So I just put together some slides of kind of a process that I think I would follow when I was introducing sort of a longer text. So if you don't mind going to the next slide there, Mitch. So I had a slide about intercept thinking, which was that, the anxiety is kind of triggered the moment the students know that we're doing a reading. And usually I have like an agenda on the board or something like that. So they know right away, like, oh no, we're reading. So kind of could discuss, and I had some notes kind of at the bottom of the slides as well, but kind of discussing, what they're thinking about before we're reading. In this case, it's an infographic. And then kind of that perhaps we can idea that, hey, maybe we can get something out of the text, and discussing what they've read maybe in the past. If it's sort of the first time, I might go all the way back to your elementary school. Like, do you remember learning to read? Some kids do, and some kids don't remember, which I always think is kind of funny. And then talk about strategies that we've used, just so that we're not like, here's the text, read it. We're like prepping beforehand. What are we going to do when we see the text? Okay, and then go to the next slide there, Mitch. So this is an example of an infographic that I liked. And I feel like there's a lot going on. As an adult, you can look at this and immediately you're recognizing flags and you realize what the maps are showing. And, you might know who the Maya were. So you're like, oh, okay, this is probably talking about, and you read the title, you're like, indigenous languages, even with just English ability if you don't speak Spanish. But for a student who's maybe not very familiar with these countries, or even the idea of an indigenous language, they might know that people speak Spanish in Mexico, but have no idea when that started or that people there speak other languages. For them, they might not get almost anything out of this. So they see this and they're just like, there's arrows and circles and it's a lot. And they might feel, instead of, like, an adult might look at this and think, oh, I can get a lot of information. Students might be like, oh my goodness, this is too much. So then next slide there. So like, I would probably pass out copies of the article, or at my school, the kids all have iPads, so they would have the text, they could zoom in on it and whatnot. But so once they have it and they've seen it, you could schedule in a brief pause for some kind of mindfulness for students. Not that I have kids like hyperventilating or anything when we're doing a reading, but I know what they're thinking because I've been there myself. So, doing some kind of mindfulness. And in the bottom, I think I wrote some techniques. Encourage students to think they cannot read. Oh, right. So what I was saying here is you don't want to go overboard with like telling them it's hard. If I'm up there saying, I know it's hard, it's so difficult, then they're just going to be like, even the teacher thinks it's hard. But doing some kind of mindfulness, simple mindfulness kind of activity, so that they're just like more relaxed and ready to just accept, it is what it is with the article and do what you can. So then next slide. So then this was in some of the slides in maybe session 4, the playfulness and curiosity idea, where this might be a challenging image to look at, but could you approach it in a way that's maybe more fun? Like, hey, what does the orange circles mean? How do you think that word, Nahuatl, how do you think that's pronounced? It looks kind of funny. Why does it have these strange letters? And so then if the kids are in more of like a playful mindset, they might notice things like colors, the maps, words that look like English, and start individually or in small groups, start deciphering some of the information. All right, next slide. So then, yeah, with the playfulness and curiosity, you want the students to stay in the state of flow. So one way to do that, they might just have a partner that they talk to, so that it's not just them alone looking at it and silently thinking, I can't do it. They're talking to someone and bouncing ideas off of each other. With the iPads, they can edit the document or the image, and they can start getting their own meaning from it. Next slide. I forget how many slides I have, maybe 8. And then as a class, wrap up the discussion with the text. And I said in the notes before, like previous to the discussion, the students could answer some comprehension questions. So then I get kind of a read on what information the kids are getting out of it. Usually something simple like 4 or 5 questions, just kind of quick. Hopefully kids are getting most of them correct. And then I think, hey, they got the basic information that I wanted. And then the last slide, I think, oops, sorry, that's an alarm. The last slide, sense of joy. Yeah, take a moment for them to enjoy their success. Talk about how they unlocked some meaning from the image or the infographic in this case, what strategies worked for them, and then kind of plan for the next reading. I try to work readings in several times a week. So like it's going to come again. So what worked this time? Can you use it next time? This one has a lot of imagery. The next one might just be more text based. So how are you going to approach that? And then that kind of wraps up what I put in there for the lesson.
Yeah, so it's kind of, some of the things that I thought that were really cool is that, you get the kids to take a look at what they're going to have to do and understand that they're intimidated, and then you allow them to reset with the mindfulness. And then the way, like, this particular document has so many cues in it. It's so cool because when they go into groups, they can see how the circles kind of point to, um, well, it happens to be the different languages or the different indigenous groups. Um, but they can see that. They can see, the numbers, and then after the numbers is the word hablantes, so that they can kind of gather, oh, wait a minute, every one of these has the word hablantes. What does that mean? And then they can see the flags, so they can understand that the flags indicate the countries uh, where those people live now, and then the names of the groups. Um, it's got so many cues for them, and then linking it back kind of towards the end, where after they've gotten together and they discuss the meaning of the text, and then at the very end, it's like, so how did this approach of opening up your mind and looking for cues, how did that help you, and how do you think you can use that approach in the next thing that we read? Kind of prepares them for that sense of resilience for the next time you have a reading. So I thought it incorporates so many different elements to get kids to open up their minds and be kind of growth mindset.
I can't take credit for the infographic. I didn't make that.
No,
I
but
made a
you
lot of
chose it. But
uh,
well, I'll tell you what, I can't take credit for any of the things in the course because I didn't create any of them. So, but you curated it, you chose it.
right.
So
That's what I
that's
was going to
great.
say, more like curating these things.
Yeah,
There's a lot of like groups on Facebook or Pinterest or whatever that teachers can share these things, and I get a lot of great ideas from there.
wonderful. Other thoughts from people? Okay, let me stop the share. I have to find my cursor. Yeah, I would say that these strategies, as I mentioned, teaching in front of other teachers, if you get a chance to talk to other, language teachers, sharing these types of strategies, I think would be helpful to any language teacher.
Got a department meeting tomorrow, so
Okay.
I'm ready.
Or, knock their socks off.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alden. Okay. Who wants to share now?
I can try.
Okay.
I've never done this sharing thing, but I'm going to attempt it.
Okay. Let's see if I can find you. Are you oh, there you go.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. So I based my lesson plan on this book called Be Brave Little Penguin, basically for my kindergartners, because they come into kindergarten with these big feelings and not sure how to deal with their feelings. And so I thought this was a good start, especially the beginning of the year. So my objectives were for them to be able to identify and discuss their feelings and of fear and courage and develop some strategies. So I would introduce this by teaching them the mindful strategy of breathing, which we did last week. And I've named it Brave Breaths for this particular case, but I can use it further on. And then we'll talk about, things that they're scared of, the first day of school, riding the bus, riding bicycle, different things, and how they overcame those fears. And I've kind of always had the idea of yet in my classroom, because a lot of kids, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I try to get them to understand that yet is a big word, because if they can't do it now, I don't know unless they try. So we build on the idea of yet. So then I'm going to read the book, and Pip is scared of swimming and a lot of different things. And so just reading the book and what he goes through and how he breaks through his fear in the end. A lot of discussion throughout the book of, what's he feeling now? What do you think he would be feeling? How could he change that? I'm not good at this, so anyway, I got some activities to do. Do a Pip penguin craft, which, mind my scrolling, we made some penguins to go with penguin, and also I put this, I don't know if you can see the whole thing, but it'll be a poster in my quiet space to remind them to stop and breathe. Breathing in, breathing out, do it 3 times. And that's kind of it.
And I think there's a lot, there's a lot of data that points that when kids can project onto a character rather than talk about themselves, they're able to explore feelings and learning a lot better. And then they can make that, and then with a teacher, they can make the transfer then to themselves, right?
Yeah. And
So
I also have
that's what, yeah.
I have over the years gathered quite a few stuffed animals, and so I have some penguins to bring out during this, and the kids like to play with those and retell the story with it. So you get some reading stuff in there to go with it.
And as you're doing that, also there's a lot of data that shows that when we're happy, our minds are more open and we're much more able to learn. So by having the penguins there, having the kids have fun, having them talk about uh, how Pip is feeling, and then kind of leading it back to how they're feeling. Um, you're using a lot of techniques that kind of go that get new knowledge into people's brains, very often without them even realizing that they're learning, right?
Yeah. The other activity that I haven't done yet, but I want to do is drawing a flower and labeling the petals with positive thoughts. Which, even if that meant the kids drew pictures at kindergarten, that's fine. But I haven't done that yet. But that's on my list of things to do.
Wow. So, and then what would they use that? What, I mean, I can think of things, but how would you then use that? They draw a flower, they label the petals with positive thoughts, and then what's next?
I would hang those around the room, and then
Hmm.
they would have reminders, maybe even in there near my quiet space. Those would be the reminders when they're having a tough time. Oh, but look what you have done. Look what you can do. You just haven't got there yet. Remember our yet theory.
Wonderful. Yeah, really, really incorporating so many different aspects of learning. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Who hasn't shared? Who wants to?
I haven't shared, and I'm going to be brave like Christine. I haven't shared before, and so this is new. I'm going to try it myself, and then if I can't succeed, then I'll ask you to help me with that. So here it goes. Okay. I think I'm going to have to add. Oh, maybe let's see if this works. Okay, I'm going to try this and.
Oh, it looks like it's coming up.
Oh,
There we
sweet.
go.
Okay. Now, I did not do a slideshow. I'm sorry. I just did mine as a lesson plan, but I thought you
That's
could
great.
just grab a picture of
Mhm.
the brain. And the objective is to identify the limbic versus the prefrontal cortex behaviors. So
Mhm.
I'd gather the students at the carpet and show a picture of the brain and explain where the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex are located in the brain. And then explain that the limbic system, emotional brain, uses reactive behaviors such as yelling and crying, hitting, and running away. And then explain that the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, uses responsive behaviors such as taking deep breaths, talking about the problem, and asking for help. I'd show some pictures of different emotional situations. And then for each picture, I might ask, what might the student be feeling? And what might their emotional brain want them to do? And what could their thinking brain help them to do? And create a T chart with the emotional brain versus a thinking brain, and then fill in the chart with students' ideas from the different picture prompts. You can just select different pictures. Then wrap up by asking a few students to share out what they learned.
It's really interesting. The way you have um, using the picture of the brain, relating their feelings and the actions, that these are the types of things that the limbic system, the limbic parts of the brain do. These are the types of things that the prefrontal cortex, having a discussion about which they desire, um, and then and those pictures are so clear about the emotions that they portray. So incredibly well done.
Oh, thank you.
My guess is the kids will love that and learn a lot from it.
Thank you.
And you did this for what age group is
Well,
what you were thinking?
I was kind of thinking probably second to fourth grade.
Hmm.
Might be a little too young for fourth grade. I don't know.
I would suspect that with very little changes, this could be used, even in middle school, and with just a few more changes, could be used in high school also. I think it's got base a bones of a lesson plan that really could be used throughout school.
Hmm.
So and I think it's very flexible. And how does it feel now that you're an expert in sharing on Zoom?
Well, that was really fun.
Hmm.
And it was much easier than I thought.
Good. Well, thank you for trying it. Okay. Oh, Samantha, you're up. Would you like to go? Okay.
Sure. Um,
And so
yeah, and
I have to give, if you want to share, but I'm going to make you co-host.
yeah, I'll share if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Um, I'll share the fact that I'm still learning to use Canva. So, uh, I've used it for posters. I used for one of the clubs I'm in charge of at my school, but I basically I wanted to do a lot more with this, but I'm still learning it. So, anyway, and I'm learning as I watch other people's presentations too, so that's good. So thank you for that. Because I think this might end up being possibly better through a slideshow, but um anyway, so why when I was going through all the lessons, one of your lessons on mind shifting, the resourcefulness picture, the chart that you had presented, that just really stood out to me. And I really could foresee doing a lesson, maybe not so much a lesson. I spend more time in advisory with my current students being an online teacher, but I could still use that chart with them. And so I wanted to make a poster is what I was doing for this class. So here's a poster. It does, and I started to put in animations because we live in a tech age, and this is where I started to slow down. But anyway, so I wanted to have the analogy or metaphor to students to understand that think of your brain, think of it like a car, and how do you want to fuel it to move it through this chart so that you can get to the maximum productivity or maximum flow, as we said. I did change some of the terms in here. Just a little tweak here and there, because I thought, well, some students might not quite initially understand, the apathy, or so there's a few tweaks I made there. But and I wanted them to think of their brain as a car, one, to even help them acknowledge the fact that it's something that you actually can, you're not stuck with the thoughts that come into your head, right? So they envision it as a car that they can move around. I thought that was a good way to get them thinking positively about changing their thoughts. And then two, so what I would have them work through with this poster, it would be a reminder to, I guess, a lesson or a moment I had with a student to kind of go through how to do that. And I would have them, one, start your car, like always start off with mindfulness, right? Start your day with mindfulness. It's just a good way to get that. And again, when I was going into more detail with the student, to get your brain out of that, I always use the term caveman, cavewoman, it's good, it's bad, I can't, I can, so starting with mindfulness gets it into that thoughtful mode that you talked about throughout your class. And I gave an example of that here. I did also include in this interactive poster, so if they were accessing it through their computers online, they would have links to some videos for mindfulness, some quick teenage videos, because I work with middle school, high school level kids. And then I put two, I want them to understand to fill, if you choose the correct fuel, and in our case, they're going to choose from the steps you gave us, choose the correct fuel depending on where you're sitting. If you're sitting here, and I only have a few examples, and I'm going to add some links so that there can be more examples, but if their car's sitting in the no interest or they can't start, then replace the I can't do this with perhaps I can, just to get it started. Get it started moving. That's the right fuel that's going to help them start going through. If they happen to be in the boredom zone, so they can think about what could make this more fun for themselves. So ask themselves those questions. What could make this more fun? Or how would you feel? And again, all the things that you've covered with us, right? How would you feel if you accomplished this task? How would you feel about all this big accomplishment that you made? So that could take it out of boredom. If your anxiety, make a list, that cookie jar, make a list of prior accomplishments, to acknowledge that you can do that. And I gotta scroll in here myself, my eyes are old. Oh, and also I love the one that you pointed out too, of just letting students know that's normal. Like I almost want to tell students on this poster, great, because that's where that's a normal thing. That means you're right where you should be in order to keep your car moving, and you're going to get into maximum productivity or flow. So, and then of course this is just the ending of the poster that they end there. So just a generalized poster to try and blend some of the concepts, the very detailed concepts, with that map that really spoke to me, that chart.
Well, and you took that idea and you related it so much better to how kids think, and um and really how the kids would be thinking in the first person, like, oh, I'm in the no interest zone. Okay, so what could I do about it? I'm in the boredom zone. This is what I could do about it. I think you made it um, first person, and kid friendly, something that I just did, I just described. You made it come alive.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and this is what I couldn't figure out in Canvas, how to get a little car here, kind of animation moving, but I couldn't do it, but that's okay. I could probably do something like that with the student if they're in my Zoom, but yeah, thank you.
I
I just
suspect
thanks for this.
that maybe one or two of your students could figure that out. Let them
That's
do
true.
it.
I'll ask them.
Yeah.
I'll ask them to help me because I'm in the I can't start phase. Please help me. Thank you.
No, thank you. That's again, that's wonderful. Um, and I wonder, like, since you're in an online school, and so other educators are going to be in that school, if there's a way that you could also teach this to the other teachers in the school, because this is the type of thing that I think that they would find very motivating for their kids.
That's a great idea. I can share the poster for sure.
Mm-hmm. And even do a quick video the same way you explained it here. Do a quick video of you explaining how you do it, and then they can watch the video and see the poster. Yeah. Because it's too good to just sit there.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And so, is there anybody else who has not gone who would like to share? Okay. So I think that you all got a chance to see how you could take the material and relate it to kids, and how other people, other educators can also, your fellow educators here can also take this material and adapt it to kids, and then you could take you can take each other's lessons and try them with your own classes and show them to teachers in your schools. Um, I was personally blown away by these lessons. So I've been teaching this course now to educators for about 4 years, and I will say that I am always impressed, but this time I would say I was blown away. These lessons were fantastic. So thank you, thank you all for presenting. Um, Thank you all for being in this class, and for those who have not done a lesson, or you have something, some more to do for the course, we're going to leave everything open for at least a week or so, to give people a chance to catch up. Um, you'll still be members of the community for the next couple weeks, and then if you think that it's worthwhile staying in the community and helping share these practices with each other and brainstorming with each other, then feel free to stay in the community. You'll be given a chance to in a couple of weeks. Hope to see you in another course, or feel free to reach out with questions that you have. I'm always happy to hear what you're doing. So you all have my email address. And any last thoughts before we officially or unofficially end the course?
I want to thank you. I went into this not for sure what it was all about, but I've really taken a lot from it.
Oh, thank you, Christine. So thank you again, and everybody have a great rest of the school year, and hope to see you. And I'll stay on just in case anybody has any questions that you want to ask.
Yeah, thanks to you
It
too,
was
Mitch.
nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Mitch. Thanks, Mitch. I'm glad your cough has gone away.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's much better.
Yeah, you sound good. Have a good
Thanks.
night.
Okay, you too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Byron, did you have a question, or did you just waiting for me to sign off? Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to share. Not everybody has to share. Yep, I can imagine. Yep.
Yeah, yesterday I spent the whole day teaching kids how to interview, and it just was draining.
I can imagine.
Draining.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I don't have the same kind of setup that most of the students in the class. I think they really came up with some amazing stuff, though.
Didn't they? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat to see that. And like I said, what I shared to me was something on mentoring, and I don't know if you looked at it, but it's just kind of a cheat sheet, because if you don't do something for a little while, or, it's the old rule that if you don't do something 7 times in 2 weeks, you forget the essence of it. And I have cheat sheets all over the place. So.
Oh, no, this is nice. Yeah.
Just kind of threw that in there to see if that would help somebody.
Good. Yeah. I think it
Appreciate it,
will.
Mitch. It's been fun.
Good.
Really enjoyed
And
it.
thank you for sharing with everybody. And, hopefully we'll be in touch one way or
Hopefully.
another.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
Be
Bye.
safe.
You too.